How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We got a lot to talk about here on the show today, all sorts of news to get into, and luckily there's so much news that hopefully we don't have to talk about Charlotte for the entire show today. It is the 25th of April, the day that WWE announced their earnings report for the first quarter of 2019. Revenues, $182.4 million as compared to $187.7 million in the prior year quarter. Operating income reflected a loss of $6.8 million as compared to an income of $21.8 million in the prior year quarter. Network average paid subscribers increased 2% to 1.58 million. Digital video views increased 15% to 7.7 million. I'll talk about that after the break. WrestleMania, they claim, broke the record for MetLife Stadium, as we have mentioned many times, and as WWE themselves have stated on investors' calls, these numbers are part of the entertainment portion of the show. In other words, they lie about the attendance. But because they're telling you it's a lie, it's the entertainment portion. I guess that's how they get away with it. WWE Network subscribers viewed 23.2 million hours during WrestleMania week. 17.9 million hours were consumed on digital and social media platforms, up 29%. WWE Network total subscribers reached 2 million the day after WrestleMania. And they mentioned WrestleMania featured a historic first-ever women's main event starring Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. Starring, by the way. It's a show. WWE stock at the moment, $85.95. That's a very good number, but it is down 12.78% today. We'll see what it does by the end of the day. And there was the quarter one call for investors with Vince McMahon, Triple H. We can talk about that when we come back as well. Lots of stuff to get into today. Stick around. We'll kick it off after the break. Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Well, here we go, everybody. WWE earnings report. Couple of things I want to mention here, and that is that when they list the first quarter 2019 highlights, there are 5 highlights they list for the first quarter, okay? 5. So, they talk about revenues, they talk about operating income, they talk about OIBDA. Those are 3 of them, okay? The other 2, network subscribers and digital video views, okay? So 20% of the highlights that they point out for the first quarter of 2019, 20% of those involve how much of the WWE Network that you were watching. So as I have pointed out before, the reason that WrestleMania is so damn long, and the reason the takeovers are longer, and the reason that they're just absolutely flooding you with content is that instead of mentioning the ratings or anything of that nature, they're highlighting how much time you spend watching the WWE Network. It's one of the gimmicks. That's why the shows are so long. So all I can do is pray that when they sign these new television deals, like one of the 5 can now be, this is how much money we're making per quarter on television, and they can stop talking about how much network content is being watched, and then the shows won't be so damn long. But I wanted to throw that out there. Anyway, got all of this stuff here that they point out, and yesterday on Wrestling Observer Radio with Dave Meltzer, if you listen to it, and Dave won't be on today. I banned him for the argument we have last night. It's actually not true. He's at the Bellator Media Day, but we were talking about the earnings report coming out today, and he mentioned that, well, most of the investors are aware that it's not about what's going on right now. It's about what's going to be happening in 2020 and 2021. Because in October, everything changes. They get the new television deals. They're going to be making ridiculous amounts of money. And so they all know that whatever the numbers are here, it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. And Dave is absolutely right to a strong degree Because, yes, in October it all turns around. In October they'll be swimming in money. And these rights fees that they got are going to escalate over the course of the deal. So, like 2020, 2021, I mean, they're going to be making more and more and more and more money, okay? But if you're an institutional investor, I mean, to me, there are very, very worrying signs about WWE if you look at these numbers right now. Very, very concerning. House show attendance, the WWE Network being up a whopping 2% year over year, the fact that the Raw numbers have taken Raw and SmackDown, the tumble that they have taken, it is not just continuing to decline, the decline is accelerating, okay? This to me is very, very concerning. Yes, at the end of the day, they will be swimming in money at the end of this year, next year, and the year after. But their rights fees are escalating at a time when all of their actual business metrics are declining significantly. This, to me, is a concern. They very easily could be bumped off Fox. They could decline. If they continue to decline at the rate they're declining, then looking even more long-term, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I mean, I don't know what they're going to get for television. It's very possible they'll get an even bigger increase if, for example, their rate of decline is still slower than the rate of decline of the USA Network and whoever might want SmackDown. Okay, that is all possible, but we don't know. All I know is these numbers are very concerning to me, and as it turns out, the stock today down 12.78% as of the time this show went on the air. It is possible that by the end of the day, tomorrow, the day after, everything will be back to normal. That's very possible. But, I don't know. Stock is still sky high. It's sky high. $85.95, okay? It hit $100 the other day. So, this is not concerning right now that the stock is down 15%. There's no concern that company is going out of business in the next 3 years. But there are still, to me, signs of concern when you look at all the business metrics, which I can guess we could talk about here after a while. Any thoughts, Mike?
The first 10 minutes of that show last night with you and Dave was certainly very special. It absolutely was. I hope the rest of the show was good, too. I didn't hear it. But there are two things that can be true. The business of WWE is great. As long as you have Saudi Arabia giving you $50 million every other quarter, as long as you have TV fees and rights going up, all that sort of stuff, yeah, that's true. What's also true is you're seeing a big atrophy as far as their fan base goes, and there is question over, are you creating, forget about wrestling fans, are you even creating enough WWE fans at the same rate and in the same way that you did in the past? And it doesn't seem like they are. So, there are a lot of moving parts here. What's happening currently on TV. There's lots of things that kind of come into play that all get mixed mashed together when it comes to these quarterlies and these types of things. But there's no point. I'll leave it to Brandon Thurston and people who are wonderful with numbers to overanalyze. It's just there is the sight test, and the sight test says that while the business of WWE's business is fantastic and looks to probably be great for quite some time, and odds are they'll never go out of business the rate they're going. Are they creating enough wrestling fans? Are they creating enough WWE fans? What is the interest like? What is the buzz like around your product and all that sort of stuff? And it is lacking, and it seems to be getting worse and sliding down worse. Does that mean everything is bad? No. Does that mean they can't turn it around? Of course not. Of course they can. When you have all that talent there, you have all those brains there, but it is a cause for concern. There are several things that can be true when talking about WWE.
They declined to answer whether another Saudi Arabia event was scheduled for the next quarter, even when pushed by a caller on how they expect to hit some of their projections in upcoming quarters. For those of you unaware, one of the main reasons they continue to go to Saudi Arabia is Saudi Arabia is needed in order for them to hit their projections. That's why when the whole thing went down for Crown Jewel, they didn't want to cancel, because if they canceled, they weren't going to hit their projections, and they were concerned about the stock price. Same thing happening here. McMahon was asked about what metrics they used to guide change in characters and storylines. He deferred to Paul Levesque. Without giving any specifics, he said they brought up 15 talents last year and 10 already in 2019, and pushed that their top stars are coming through the developmental system. He also used a rising tide reference. We can look at how successful the call-ups have been if you really want to. WWE will be a big part of Fox TV's upfronts, and they have been part of the pre-upfront preparations, and they were asked about network churn and how they see the relaunch helping that. It was pointed to the talent in a cascade effect causing some of the churn. Yes, Vince McMahon noted one of the big problems for 2019 is talent absences. You know, there were people that were hurt.
When you have 9 trillion people on your roster at your disposal, you can't use that excuse. I'm sorry. That's a lame excuse. That's like when they point out their TV ratings and they leave out the NBA playoffs and things like that. You can be creative with that, and there are people on that phone line that won't shake at that at all. But the reality is people looking at that from the outside and that really laugh at that. I mean, and also, by the way, just to get this in before the break, too, and talking about Saudi Arabia, you can go to WrestleNomics on Twitter and see this laid out there from the WWE slide that they showed. But when you look at 2018, quarter one, $8.9 million in revenue in other. Quarter three, 11.7. Quarter two, 60.6. Quarter four, 63.5. That's Saudi Arabia.
There you go. All right, back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Since we haven't talked about these, Raw on Monday, 2 weeks after WrestleMania, and a week after the Superstar shakeup. 2.37 million viewers, the lowest since January 7th, which had football competition. Number was down 11% from post-WrestleMania, 24% year-to-year drop. Hour 1, 2.68 million. Hour 2, 2.30 million. Hour 3, 2.15 million. I mentioned Baron Corbin on Twitter, and the Corbin Brigade jumped in, and they were like, Bryan, the numbers always drop during the show. Why is this Baron Corbin's fault? Blah, 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 blah. Well, obviously, it's not all Baron Corbin's fault, but Baron Corbin, at the beginning of the second hour, was in a three-way, and he won the match. And they announced that he was going to wrestle again at the end of the show in the main event. I have watched Baron Corbin in the main event week after week after week. They finally have a Superstar shakeup, which is supposed to shake up the show. It's called the Shake Up. And the first show after the shakeup, Baron Corbin is announced as being back in the main event again. Now, yes, it always drops during the show. But after Daylight Savings Time, number one, often that second hour was higher rated than the first. That's not even happening anymore. So that's number one. Number two, the drop in the second hour. The number of people that turned off the show in the second hour, after, I might add, Baron Corbin won that match, was the fourth largest drop in history. This was not just your average drop. This was a gigantic drop after he won that match. He was promoted as the main event. The main event did 2.15 million viewers. I'm not saying it's all his fault, but I can tell you, I don't like to do this because it's a sample size of one, but as a fan, I liked the three-way that he had, but when he won, I checked out. I was mentally done with this show. I kept watching because it's my job, but I checked out. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one. And I liked a lot of the other stuff on Raw. I thought there were some very good matches on the show. But if there was one thing more than anything else that checked me out of that show, it was him winning that match and knowing that he was wrestling again in the main event. And he went in there with AJ Styles, and nobody cared live, and it was a boring match, which is impossible with AJ Styles. He had a great match when the show opened. Somehow he had a boring match 3 hours later, and it wasn't Baron Corbin's fault. So that's that number. And then SmackDown, 2.072 million viewers. They almost dropped below 2 million. They were down 26% year over year. And yes, they were going up against the NBA playoffs, but the NBA playoffs game was like 2.2 million viewers. It's not like this was a game that did 10 million viewers. I mean, yeah, I'm sure some people watched the NBA playoffs instead of SmackDown, but that's a bad number. And Ms. and Mrs. afterwards, 940,000 viewers. So very bad numbers coming 2 weeks after Mania and a week after the Superstar shakeup. Not impressive.
Do you know if they ever hired that continuity editor?
Oh, dude, I was thinking about that.
Because if they did, they may remember that every fault of Raw was laid at the feet of Baron Corbin. How this guy is killing everything. He's murdering ratings. He's deaf. Nobody likes him. Get out of here. That was the storyline, right? That was the deal. And then we're going to shake things up, and that's when all the NXT people like Otis and Lacey and all of them came up, and EC3, who's been used to a fantastic degree. All of those people came up because Baron Corbin was sinking everything.
Well, what funny,
changed?
Well, let me tell you what's funny about this, because people have been texting me about Vince's line about house shows that he did like 2 earnings reports ago about how they knew what was wrong with house shows. They were going to fix them. Here we are months and months later, and nothing has changed, and the numbers are bad. So, listen, I'm writing a book, everybody. 100 Things WWE fans should know and do before they die, all right? It's out in July. The number one thing in that book, they're kind of ranked. I hate ranking, okay? But, like, number 1 isn't going to be Vince Russo, okay? Number 1 is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is the be-all and end-all of WWE, and this company has been around since 1963, and they beat everybody. They're the biggest wrestling promotion in the world right now. At the end of the day, historically, he will go down as the greatest wrestling promoter there's ever been. Now, by the time all is said and done, the story will probably be that, like, he lost his mind at the end, and it went off the rails, okay? But prior to him losing his mind and it going off the rails, he's the best promoter there ever has been. But he's a promoter, and he's going to tell you what you want to hear. And if you blindly believe it, that's on you. When he said that he knew how to turn the house show business around, apparently all of these investors thought, you know what? He's Vince McMahon. He's telling us that he knows how to turn it around. We just have to wait for him to turn it around. Well, the reality was he didn't know how to turn it around because he didn't do anything and nothing has changed. And just like with the Baron Corbin storyline, when he came on TV and he said, we're going to turn it all around. We are going to make you fans the general managers. We're going to get rid of Baron Corbin. He's a ratings drain. It's all his fault. All of that stuff, he was telling you what you wanted to hear. And then everything was going to be exactly the same. I said that was going to happen. I'm sure Mike said that was going to happen. Everybody who's been watching the show knew that was what was going to happen. There was no change. There was no plan. Baron Corbin's been pushed as a main event guy ever since they said they were going to take him off television because he was draining the ratings. Nothing has changed. And it's not going to change. Now, you can wait and hope, as somebody texted yesterday, for lightning in a bottle. You ain't going to get it. When Vince is gone, then things will change. Now, maybe they'll change much significantly for the better. Maybe a little bit. Maybe not at all. Maybe things will get worse. I don't know what will happen when he's gone. And somebody else has to do this job. I don't know. But I can guarantee you that things will be different when he's gone. And until he's gone, it's not going to change. Period. That's just a fact.
Hey, Dom, do me a favor. During break, get some tape rolled on Raising Arizona when Nicolas Cage is there in front of the parole board, and they're asking him if he's just telling them something that they want to hear. I need that drop to be played before we come back in again. This is always a good reminder too if you're not into following stocks and things like that, and these types of earnings reports where everybody's at the mercy pretty much of the person that's talking when it comes to their specific business, and when it comes to WWE. they will always have an advantage because there is nobody that does their kind of business, no matter how close anybody thinks that they are, no matter what Sinclair or AEW thinks they can do. What they are right now is not anywhere near close to what WWE is. And as long as they continue to convince people that they are monetizing YouTube, where I think a lot of their viewership has gone to, because I think there are a lot of people that watch and check out WWE that is not reflective in the ratings. I think that's true when people bring that up. The problem is they're watching in like 20-minute clips. And if the only time they come out is WrestleMania, I mean, I guess that's enough to carry you through your whole year, but it's very worrisome on what it means for the future and how you're building your fans and if you're going to be able to lock them in at an early age forever. If they just look at you as something that they can hit for 20 minutes, tapi a month, they catch your clips because you put them everywhere and that's all that they need. Maybe I'm too old. But that boggles my mind as an approach that's going to be something that's going to be able to last.
All right, a couple of texts. We'll go to the phones after the break because we don't have a lot of time here. This person here says, did they just scrap the Miz-Shane feud in favor of Shane avenging his father against Roman? So basically, that chair shot on Raw last week was the big babyface payoff. Well, I mean, they did a Raw 5-point preview talking about Shane versus Miz. I mentioned that on Monday because I realized that Shane, in fact, can work both shows. But yes, that's what they came up with, and now they appear to have shifted it over to Shane versus Roman Reigns. So, I mean, basically, the payoff to that big Miz-Shane feud was the babyface lost because he was an idiot. He superplexed a guy off a thing, and he was underneath the guy, so the other guy won. That was a big payoff. They couldn't even give Miz a win to end that feud over Shane McMahon.
Let's be honest, the big payoff was his dad standing there putting up his dukes in the middle of the ring. That was my big payoff of that whole thing. And look, you are forgetting that I know that they're separate brands or whatever. We could still end up seeing a tag match because who would dare boo Roman Reigns when he's standing there next to The Miz?
Person says, why when there's a good match it takes two, but if the match sucked, you blame the crappy guy? Well, because I've been working since 1993, and I can tell you, if you have a guy like AJ Styles, and he has 100 matches, and 99 of them are good, and one of them is bad, yeah, that one probably is a result of his opponent. That's just a fact of the matter. It's like, what are you talking about here?
I don't know. And again, I'll say the same thing I said, I guess, on Monday, and I've said over and over again with Baron Corbin. All of these skills that he has, all of these unique characteristics that he has of, like, to me, he would still be a better bodyguard. He's a better heater. He's just a better version of, like, Boss Man because his mic work is better. But an amazing athlete. I mean, all of those things are true. And he seems to really actually be a decent dude that people like behind the scenes. Great. Utilize him in a better role because a main event singles guy isn't that thing.
All right, back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Before we go to the phones, this person makes a very good point. AJ Styles had 2 good matches with Jinder, and he couldn't get a good match out of Corbin. That's true. Those are factual statements. All right, let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
It's Ed. I'm back.
Yes, Ed.
Ah, that's right.
Ed's 24-hour window
Bryan,
to get me Charlotte Flair.
Here's his offer.
Yeah, so I had a hard time trying to figure out who I could get to wrestle you because right off the bat, I know you like to wrestle guys smaller than you, so that eliminated guys like Hornswoggle and people like that. But I was thinking to myself, who could I get that's actually smaller than Marco Stunt? And it hit me. Marco Stunt has a little brother that goes by the name of the Bite-Sized Brawler who's trying to make a name for himself in the wrestling business this year. So I contacted Logan, and he was actually very, very excited, and he had a few things he wanted me to pass along to you. And the first off, he says that unlike you, he is a legitimate second-degree black belt in a real martial arts, Taekwondo, unlike...
All right, hey. I'm in. I'm in.
Wow, I didn't even get to this.
No, I don't need to hear the rest. Marco's little brother, a week before my no-holds-barred match with Marco.
Oh, my God.
He says you're not going to make it to the Marco Stunt match because he's not happy that you're claiming you broke his brother's leg and that he's going to break your leg. I did break his
brother's leg.
Yeah, well, he says he's going to break your leg. And he also said that he's going to humiliate you so bad that Granny will never do a show again because she'll be too embarrassed to.
I'm pretty sure that if Logan Stunt put me in a figure four leg lock, his own legs would break.
Well, we'll find out about that. But
read me the rest of the stuff that he said.
What's that?
Read me the rest of the stuff that he said, just for comedy's sake.
Well, those were the three main things, other than that he's just going to beat you. He already beat his brother, and now he's going to be the next big thing in pro wrestling. So he's very excited. And he's
very excited to make his name on me.
Yeah, he's going to make his name on you.
Yeah. Marco Stunt's little brother.
Yeah.
Dude, you're on. I'm in.
Hey, Ed. Ed, I got a question, though.
Yes.
Let's just say that Jungle Boy defeats and pins Boss Man Clean in the middle of the ring. Are you going to change the match and then maybe invite Jungle Boy out there to wrestle instead? Get out of here, Mike.
Quit asking stupid questions, Kayla.
Well, why would Jungle Boy want to wrestle Bryan after he's humiliated him once before? So I don't think that's going to happen, Mike.
Why don't you plug your show here, since I'm on it now?
Okay, well,
I better write this
if everyone wants to watch Bryan Alvarez get beat up by a 4-foot, a 19-year-old kid, go to Las Vegas, May 24th at the FSW Arena.
This is going to be like Cat Williams.
At 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and you'll get to see Logan Stunt beat the crap out of Bryan. You'll get to see some of the best women wrestlers in the world, and it'll be an awesome show. You can purchase tickets at poder.brownpapertickets.com. Poder is spelled Poder. .brownpapertickets.com. You can get tickets there. I'm even going to be really nice, and there's a VIP option, and I'm going to donate $5 out of that VIP donation to Whale Scouts.
Oh, wow.
It'll be worth it to watch Bryan Alvarez get beat up by a little kid.
Would you shut up? All right, that's it, everybody. Poder.brownpapertickets.com. Ed just texted me and he spelled it wrong, but I'm going to help you out, everybody. Poder, Poder, .brownpapertickets.com.
That means power in Spanish.
Can I say one more thing before I go, Brian?
Hurry up.
I did lose one of my wrestlers, Leva Bates, as she got signed by AEW. So if Mookie Gunn is listening, I think AEW owes me a make good, and I want Brandy Rose, but I'll settle for Kenny Omega on my show.
Okay, I'll make sure that he hears that message. All right, thanks, Ed. Get out of here. Logan Stunt, 19 years old, 120 pounds. Can you imagine?
Did you work out trans for this?
This is the happiest. This is the happiest day of my life. A week before the Marco Stunt match, I get to kill his little brother. It's like a martial arts movie. Talking about his second-degree Taekwondo black belt. I got black belts in karate and Taekwondo and jiu-jitsu. It's going to be exactly like every martial arts movie you've ever seen. I kill Marco's little brother, and Marco needs to get revenge. But in this movie, he'll fail. Like Dad, by the way, I am not looking past this Saturday. If you're in the Northern California area, APW returns to the James Logan High School, Union City, California, Saturday, April 27th. Special fundraising event benefiting the Ballet Folklorico group at James Logan High School, bell time 7 p.m. I will be fighting for the APW Junior Heavyweight Championship against the Jungle Boy. He is the APW Junior Heavyweight title. There is a brand new belt, which is incredible.
Will they take some snaps out so it fits you just in case?
I did note on the belt it says the Dragonfly division. I'm not exactly thrilled about that.
Well,
but I will accept it. But yes, this coming Saturday night. Should note that Kevin Gill here wrote, this Saturday, the long-anticipated night where Jungle Boy teaches Bryan Alvarez a wrestling lesson he will never forget. Wow. Looking forward to calling this explosive and one-sided squash for all pro wrestling. Dude, the Jungle Boy is an incredible athlete.
Beautiful hair.
Beautiful hair. He's very, very athletic. And yes, he's not even half my age. I'm more than twice his age. So he's much younger. And I'm sure perhaps more explosive. I guarantee he's going to do more flips than I am, okay? But Kevin Gill here writes, he's going to teach me a wrestling lesson, okay? If this is a wrestling match, if this match ends up on the mat, in no universe is the Jungle Boy going to teach me a wrestling lesson. I have been wrestling since before the Jungle Boy was born. I have been doing jiu-jitsu since before the Jungle Boy was in preschool. Do you understand how long I have been doing this? Every day, I give Jungle Boys a lesson in kids' class. And Jungle Boy isn't even going to get a free lesson. He's actually going to get paid for this lesson. So, in reality, it's the luckiest day of his life. And I will ruin him if this ends up on the mat. I'll break both of his legs. And by the way, I don't know what Logan Stunt is going to do when I break both of his legs, because it's pretty hard to do Taekwondo class when you don't have any legs. So 2 big matches coming up. 3 big matches now. I'm booked like crazy.
Man.
It's coming Saturday night, All Pro Wrestling, Ed's show over Double or Nothing weekend, and then the week after, Marco's Stunt, No Holds Barred. Man, check it all out on my Twitter. A lot of stuff coming up. All right, let's go to the phones.
Is Tom still touring Europe, by the way?
He's still in Poland.
Okay.
Yeah. To the phones, John the Air. What's going on?
How y'all doing this evening?
Hey, what's happening, Jim?
I just wondered, I haven't heard anybody say anything about the end of SmackDown where Kevin Owens turned on the New Day.
I loved it. I thought it was a little early. I thought it was too early, but I did, in fact, love it. It was so good that, like I talked about yesterday on the Dave show, WWE, if you give them too much time between setting up a match and like delivering, they muck it up with their booking, like they did with the 3-way for WrestleMania. When he turned on Kofi Kingston, when he super kicked him, like sometimes when you turn on a guy, like the fans cheer because they're actually seeing an angle in front of their own eyes. Nobody cheered when he turned on Kofi Kingston. They hated Kevin Owens. They love Kofi Kingston. In my world, you don't need to do anything else. Just do the match. But unfortunately now there's 3 more weeks before the pay-per-view, so they're going to have to shoot some angles. Probably going to be some pancakes involved. They're going to take the edge off of it. So I would very much have preferred if they would have built this up for 3 more weeks and then pulled the trigger, and then you just go right to that pay-per-view match.
I agree with you on that. You think there's any chance that Owens would get the belt?
He could. I mean, I would keep it on Kofi for a while. I mean, Kofi's a guy where the fans wanted him to get the belt. He got the belt. And there's no indication to me that the fans are turning on him or they're not accepting him as the champion. I mean, the fans are still super into it. So as long as they're super into it, don't take the belt off him yet.
Exactly. You have a good weekend.
Thank you, my friend. You have a good weekend as well.
I think you got to give it an honest shot. And I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday, too. With Daniel Bryan being out, you might as well go ahead and make this move. And I do like the way that they did it. And like I said yesterday, you have a great story built in there with Kevin Owens saying that he was trying to be the nice guy. You saw him with his kid and all that sort of stuff. And yet WrestleMania turned into a whole thing about Kofi and his kids and his accomplishments, and Kevin Owens being professionally and personally very offended by that and being very, very angry about that. It's an easy story to tell, and hopefully they don't muck it up too much because they don't need to. All he's got to do is go out there and kill Xavier 1 week. You know, you have the promos. And look, Kofi playing off Kevin Owens and getting some fire out of Kofi. I think this is going to be a good show and prove for Kofi Kingston on the microphone over these next couple of weeks. And I think it's going to say a lot because if the tide does turn in a month, I'm not against taking that belt off of Kofi, although I would like to see him. Hopefully this does work and he does get a little bit of time because some stability with that belt and just to help him as a character, I think would be good.
This person has a very interesting question, and I don't know the answer, but this person says, Could somebody repeatedly violate the wellness policy and get released that way? So I guess their question would be, could Sasha Banks do whatever she has to do to fail wellness 3 times and then get released?
Yeah, but remember, we danced that dance. Wasn't that with Mysterio? Was that a rumor with Mysterio? Was that something that people had suggested to him or was theorized that he could do when he was very upset and looking to get out? I think you could do that, but you're putting yourself at great personal risk if that's the direction you're going to go to get out of a contract. That is you are really towing the line on if that's a good idea to do. Because, I mean, in theory, then, to whoever you go to, how does that make you hireable? You know, if somebody does that to get out to go to AEW, what does that say about AEW then? That because is this a scam? Is this person really? I mean, that is insane to me to do.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so the first violation would be 30 days. Second violation would be 60 days. And the third violation is termination. So they don't give a time frame. So basically what you would have to do is, my guess is, let's say that I'm on a 3-year deal and I got 2 years left. I decided I want out. I'd fail the drug test the first time. They'd suspend me for 30 days, and then they'd probably add 30 days to my contract.
Yeah.
So then, well, I guess it wouldn't matter because the third time they'd just fire you.
But the catch is, here's the thing. If I think you're doing that and you pee hot twice and I got you on the shelf, I may not pee you a third time.
They could just not test you after the third one. I suppose they could do that. But then the problem is, you could also show up for work all snookered and put people in danger, and they'd be forced to do something. Interesting question. I mean, I wouldn't do it. But back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Had a person asking about Jeff Hardy. What's the issue with Jeff Hardy, and what are they doing with the tag titles? I don't know. Indication is they'll probably be stripped. So we don't know how long Jeff is going to be out of action. May or may not need surgery. But it looks like they're expecting him out long enough that they probably will have to strip them of the titles. But nothing happens until it happens. And it's WWE, so even after it happens, it doesn't necessarily happen yet. And it could still happen again. So, that's all I can tell you. You're not the only one, this person says. My wife and I turned off Raw in the second hour, knowing Baron Corbin was in the main event. He is fine in a mid-card triple threat. It's true. He was fine in that match.
Yeah.
He was totally fine in that match. This person here says, you could also get random tattoos like T.J. Perkins. That got him fired. That's not why T.J. Perkins was fired. Absolutely 100% that's not why T.J. Perkins was fired. It had nothing to do with tattoos. And if they don't want you to go and you get tattoos, they're not going to fire you. They could get mad at you and job you out, but they're not necessarily going to fire you. This person says, I don't think anybody could violate the WWE policy on purpose. As Mike said, too much of a risk. Creates a bad rep on your name. Suggest it to nobody. I'm not suggesting it to anybody. Like I said, I wouldn't do it. Person says, I predict Raw will fall under 2 million average by the end of May. I don't know about the end of May, but I think that by football season next year, we're going to have some sub 2 million.
Well, see, I think it might
numbers.
pick up by that point, but during the dead of summer, I mean, I absolutely could see it dropping down that low. I think the buzz for fall, even if it's artificial, is going to build it up. Even with football, I think they're going to get an initial hit on Fox. It's going to be really hard for them not to. It's whether they can maintain that is the thing.
We're out of time, everybody. I want to thank you for listening here today. Mike, as always, callers and listeners, we're here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sunday, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We'll talk to you again next time, Wrestling Observer Live.